I'm going to play some. Well, I'm not going to play yet. I really would like to have some participation in this one, but I'll show you what I'm doing. I saw a very old. Um, let's get the thing up. Hopefully, this is working. Um, this old set of rules. I haven't played this in forever, and I was knee high to a grasshopper when I did play it. But it was originally out. Let's see, this version was out in 1975. I didn't play it in 75. I'm old, but shit. Um, it wasn't that much later on, though. But anyway, I only played it a couple of times. Excuse me for the hiccups. I've been having problems in that realm lately. But I have played it. It's been a while. I don't really have it committed to memory. I've paged through it. It's a good starter set. It's not horribly complicated, but it's that kind of. I loved this era. I loved these rules. I played this kind of stuff um, all the time. This kind of stuff being these setups. Just a little pamphlet. This wasn't a huge book, and it had everything you needed. There we go. You didn't have to go buy 100 supplements. There wasn't. Here's one book for the British. Here's one book for the pirates and all that. It was just here's some rules. Here's what we recommend to use for miniatures. Get them on your own. You didn't have to have a boatload of printed out counters. You could make your own if that helped things. Sometimes they did. I know a lot of people like that sort of stuff. I just never did. It was more stuff to lose, more stuff to get damaged, and more stuff to pay for. To have a bunch of, I've seen a modern ship game, and it came with these ability cards and ship cards and crew cards and all this stuff, and it all looked kind of neat, I suppose, with the, glossy cardboard cards and all that. But that's just production cost. I got this. $5 in 1975 was a little bit more money than it is now and all that. But that was it. Once I had this in my hot little hand, I was ready to go. There wasn't, well, now that I've got this, I've got to go buy this. And then I mean, with the exception of the models, sure. But I just like that. There was a ton of stuff like this. Chainmail, the original Fight in the Skies, which became Dawn Patrol. There was stuff, local stuff. Guy named Gary Bloom, I played this with him. He was kind of taught me wargaming and stuff. He was kind of a mentor, and he made these kind of things. He made one called Armored Attack and Total Conflict, and they were all the same. They all had that same dimension or thereabouts, and very similar looks. Low on the art. Some people have a real problem with that. I don't know, man. I don't. It's not that I don't like pictures or I don't like art. I walked through the art displays at Gen Con and loved it. But I didn't, I never collected a lot of like some people would buy like busts. I saw one person that had, I don't know even who made these or whatever it was, but they were busts of Marvel comic book people, if I remember right. Just the bust. They were small, and his house looked cool because he had decorated his house with all that stuff. And I appreciated it, and I thought, boy, it's kind of neat. You just surround yourself with your passion and all that. But it was like I didn't have a lot of money, and what money I did have, I wanted to pay for things that I could put in my hands and play with. You got the bust of Spider-Man, it looked cool, and you put it up on your fireplace mantle and all that. But that's it, man. You just you paid $20 or whatever the cost of it was, so that you could look at something that you were going to see all the time. I was going to go play TSR Marvel superheroes. I was going to see pictures of Superman. I didn't. I don't know. I'm weird like that. Um, so I just never saw the necessity for having a lot of pictures in with the rules. Some people say, "Well, it's good. It gets you inspired. It gets you motivated." Man, I okay, but I was already that. That's why I went and bought the rules. I wanted to play. I wanted to learn the rules so I could play the game. That was the. I just had the same thing. Some guy put out uh, one of the newer versions of Boot Hill, whoever's making or whatever, and it was a more colorful picture and larger and all that, and it was fine. That's all. And I said, "Well, here I'm OG. I've got and I pulled out the original or the second edition or whatever." And he goes, "Well, it's not very pretty." And I go, "No, the art was on the table. I didn't care that there was a couple of black and white pictures. I didn't need that. I had a bunch of miniatures and Lincoln log buildings and stuff like that. That was the cool stuff. If I wanted to be inspired to look at the art or have images, be imaginative, they would be on the table. They would be on the map or the 3-dimensional display. So I don't know. I think it's just two different ways of looking at it. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing superior about either one or anything like that. But I bring this up every time I open these lives because I want to sell people this, and I don't know. People go, "Well, you can't sell things that people don't want. People want artwork." Okay, maybe they do. Maybe you're right. But with all this OSR stuff, you'd think people would appreciate looking at something that's antique or made to look like it, even if that means that you don't have 15 pages of 8.5 by 11 glossy photographs on it. Hopefully I'm right. I don't know. Anyway, but what I was hoping to do is I've had a couple of people, a few people now, express some interest in wanting to learn. I don't hear from a couple of them that often. I've had a couple of people said, "Hey, I'd love to play war games." Played one and then didn't hear from them again. I brought out the idea of doing tutorials and having training. And on Twitter, getting likes doesn't necessarily mean, "Hey, I'm liking this because, yeah, I'm down with it." They might be, I don't know. It did get a considerable amount of likes and a couple of retweets. What that means, I don't know. Does that mean I like the picture? I like the words. I like the idea. I'm down with it. I want to be part of it. I don't know. But if any of those people are within earshot of this and you want to get involved, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm hoping for. That's why I put it out. So this one is a training scenario for this game. It's just a one-on-one, but we can beef that up if all of a sudden I get a surprising influx of interested parties. I don't want to sound like I'm unconfident or inconfident or whatever, but it does get a little frustrating. Not feeling 100% tonight. Got a stomach thing, and hopefully it's not a stomach bug and it's just eating the wrong food at the wrong time or something. But I'm a little tired and I'm not feeling too great in a tum-tum. So I'm not going to be, marathoning some solo game like I've done in the past just to try to get some people in through the door. I will be doing that because I want people through the door. But bro, we just ain't feeling it tonight. But I did want to get some people to take a look at this. This is how we would play. It's a nice setup. You got a little playing surface here that's fairly large. The ships move around a foot. The way I've got it, set up. So the background, we're already sunk, but whatever. It's a aquatic theme, so we'll go with it. The ships are very small because I like to have a lot of room. I'd rather have way too much room than not enough room. If you don't have enough room, then the game becomes ridiculous. So I've got way too much room. So that leaves it open for if by some strike of unimaginable fate, 15 people show up and go, hey, I want to play this game. Now I've got enough room and I've got enough models to, to run something that large on this space. If only a couple of people show up, that's fine. The fact that it's a huge table and we're only going to play on a part of it really doesn't matter. So here's the pieces. They're a little small. They're kind of 1/1200th-ish. And I got them from some other game on tabletop, and that's kind of how you do that. So that's the British one. And then over here, I decided to go with a pirate, because why not? Or if you wanted to keep it even more thematic, make it a frigate's maybe a little big, perhaps. I'm not a huge naval expert, but I think a frigate, even a cut down frigate, might be kind of a big boat ship, for the American Revolution on the colonial side. But yeah, I was thinking of making it some sort of, revolutionary hypothetical or whatever. But anyway, just what it really is here's a couple of ships. They really didn't even have any faction in the book. They were just a means of getting people involved. Naval war gaming is very fun. I like it. I got really into land warfare in Europe when I started playing wargaming, and I kind of rabbit holed into that, whether it be World War II or a potential of World War III. That took up the vast majority, that and air wargaming. So I did play Harpoon and enjoyed it. I played, I think I played Age of Sail, if I remember right. I played Wooden Ships and Iron Men a couple of times and really enjoyed it. But it was one of those things. Wooden Ships and Iron Men was the one that I thought was pretty cool. At the time, I really was into the Avalon Hill stuff. It was the most readily available and the most often played. But I dropped it quickly because that was one of the first times I started hearing the complexity gripe thing. So we got a guy setting the thing up at Gen Con, and he's got special large wooden handmade ships. The thing is decked out. It's a beautiful setup. It's a fun scenario. There's 20 people there, but these three old farts keep, this thing, it just takes forever to do. They sound like everybody on social media, and this was like 1980. And it sucked the fun out of it. So I kind of gave up on playing it. I get it. Some of the stuff is complex. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But the repetitious, it gets really tiresome. So if anybody's interested, it is a fun little game. It isn't Iron Ships and Woodmen or Wooden Ships and Iron Men. I've always done that. For the life of me, I can't get it. I don't know what it is, why I've got a short circuit in the brain. It always does that bass backwards, but I do. But anyway, it's not like that. That one is somewhat more complex than this. This is a typical mid to late 70s basic war game. Just it doesn't really get super complicated. People say these things are complicated because they're old and they can't put the explanations in color photos or whatever, and the mathematics might not be to some people's liking. Sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm a snob or anything, but people sure bitch about some fairly basic mathematics. So, but this really doesn't have that much of it, just whatever. It's easy. It's an easy, quick system. There's no ballistic trajectory algebra or anything like that. It's There's a little bit of navigation. That's why I chose it. I like the idea of having the navigation in it. I wanted to show people who were interested in learning wargaming the idea of kind of, writing your orders. And this was one of those write orders games. That was another reason. I don't know that I'm doing a good job selling it by talking about how people bitch about it, but I guess my overall point is there's a lot of people that find a reason to bitch about everything in gaming, even though that they're hardcore gamers. But a lot of people didn't like having to write orders down. But Jesus, it's simply just saying, I'm going to, literally what you're doing is writing down, this ship is going to maintain bearing, half its move and then open fire. Or come right to this heading and then, go this far. That's it. You could write that on a Post-it note. And simply by being able to do that, you get simultaneous movement, even if you don't have a judge. And this game had simultaneous movement. Now, I can understand somebody going, well, that's easy when you've got 3 or 4 things. Now go play, the Battle of Normandy. And fair enough. If you've got too many things on the board, it can become a chore to have to write individual things for it. But in this instance, mostly you're going to be playing with between 1 and 4 ships at the most. So, but in the training scenario, it'll just be one per player, so that you can learn it without being overwhelmed, and we can have a little bit of a free for all. And it doesn't even have to be historical; it can just be a throwdown in the middle of the ocean. So you can learn the thing, find out how simple it is to play this game, and if it's fun, and it is. Although, some people's idea of fun differs, but it's not some attempt at simulation. You have a lot of fun being out on the high seas. So it's, when you get into the historic part of it, does mention it's, meant for a certain time frame in history. And the information on the ships reflects that. But it doesn't get super technical, and just allows you to write up your character sheet for your crew and your ship, or ships plural, and off you go. So I'm doing a big show on Monday. I'm trying to work in a weekly show about 2 hours called Campaigns and Crusades. And then after that, I'll be running these kind of impromptu. Maybe I should get a more definitive schedule about it. But so far, I've just kind of been, hey, it looks like maybe I'll throw this thing on and see if anybody comes. Basically, I'm doing it at random times, just trying to see what time attracts more people to come into the live. And but I'll be trying to do them on a daily basis, and getting together and having a couple of people maybe play this game so they could learn some naval wargaming would be great. The setup's here. Again, it's set up just for 2 opponents. That could easily change into as many as needed. You can go teams, or you can go individual just to learn the thing. So it's a pretty neat little deal. Tabletop Simulator. If you don't have this program, I can't recommend it highly enough. I absolutely love it. Some people sneer at it for a variety of reasons, but most of which are, see how that is? It's got its own tape measure built right in. Most people sneer at it because it's I don't know. When it first came out, it was difficult to maneuver. It was difficult to get around in the program, and it had some flaws. But that, it's been out for years. It's refined. It's polished. It works a lot better. Some people still don't like it. I don't really even understand why. I've had people that go, oh, you're going to use that? Why don't you use something that costs $1 gazillion more? I was like, why? This works okay. Sure, sometimes what you've downloaded on this will just up and disappear because it's free. But okay, I'd rather deal with that inconvenience than a regular subscription dent into my wallet for a two-dimensional, I looked around at other VTTs and they either were too rickety because they were free or they were too complicated and expensive because they weren't. This is $20 flat out. That's it. Put down 20 bones, you've got everything you need. It just goes. So, but if you don't have it or you really don't want to invest in it, but you'd like to give this a try, there's a way to work that by you watching the stream and sending your orders to me, and we can show you kind of how that works with having a GM. At that point, you're getting a little taste of what it is to use the Command Post gaming service. You have a judge who is an intermediary for you and moves your stuff based on your written orders. So that's kind of the first part of the gaming service. So join us on made a noise. On, let's see, where are we at? We're on Twitch. We're on, well, it unfortunately doesn't work on Twitter because apparently Twitter won't let you talk on a Twitter live unless you cough up money to Elmo the Rocket Man or whatever. So if you don't have a blue check mark, you can't do it through Twitter, unfortunately. If you do, you can. I can see what you're saying on Twitter and I can work with that. But we prefer something like, YouTube or Rumble. If you have to, Twitch, there's Twitch and Kick as well. But it's a lot easier to communicate on Rumble or YouTube. And what you're doing is you'll just be looking at the camera, when I'm moving around. I suppose you use Discord. The problem with Discord is Discord layered with VTTs, it starts to have performance issues, at least on a lot of the computers that I've used in the past. And some of the people I play with, it starts to get real wonky fast, especially the voice. So that's why I haven't jumped up. Hey, let's do it on Discord. What I like to do is just do Discord on its own. Have people join the Discord because Discord does have its advantages. Some people who are into the culture wars don't like Discord because they're on the other side of the thing and all that. And Discord does, like, it's like my cable. It's up and running and there's no problem. But when there is, it's relatively lengthy and catastrophic. So I tried alternatives like Guilded, and Guilded is just a chaotic mess that I can't get to run properly. I can't even get it to accept putting still pictures in it right now. So I gave up on it. But yeah, Discord has a habit of being censorious, and so people don't like it. But other than that, it's a great way to share information. It's a great way to run games. But run it with Tabletop Simulator and you start running out of memory. So anyway, we can work it out where you can view the show that's going on and participate in the game being played, even if you don't have Tabletop Simulator, although it would be nice if you just bought it. I don't get anything out of it. I'm not selling on commission. This is no paid advertisement. I just like to run games using this as a VTT and would love to have players that would join up to do that. Steam is having a summer sale. I don't know if this game is part of it, but I've seen it go for as cheap as $10, where it regularly is 20. So, whatever. Anyway, that's kind of the long and short of it. I suppose we could go through the book a little bit and take a look at how this works. Won't read everything or anything like that, but basically, most of these things all have the same deal. They have this TSR, especially, they had the foreword and um, gives you a little bit of the background on the development of it, some of the people and personalities involved, um, kind of a mission statement of what they're trying to achieve with the rules, things like that. So uh, don't skip past it. It's rich with information, but it is not really required reading to learn. Um, anyway, by the way, if you have not seen the Hornblower series and you like naval wargaming or you like naval um, military history of this era, you should watch the Hornblower series or read it. Right, preferably read it, but there was a televised thing about it too, and it was excellent. So let's just get back into actually learning the game. So here again, the introduction explains pretty much what it is. They do use the word simulate. Don't let the use of that word scare you off or get you twisted up, because now these days when people say simulation in conjunction with war games, they're being pejorative, and it's not, that's not the context here. So anyway, French Revolutionary, Napoleonic, War of 1812, U.S. Revolution, all that kind of stuff fits in this system. So, and of course, tangling with pirates should you want to do those kind of things, which are fun. It tells you what you need, and that's going to be modified a little bit here because we have this VTT, but mostly the same. Pencils and paper, you don't need that. We have a notebook, and players will have access to their own based on the color that they choose when they join the table. And you can write in your records, your character sheets right there. Real simple, real easy. Rulers, we don't need them because, as shown earlier, this system, when you pick up and move a piece, a playing piece, it just does the ruler for it automatically, which is pretty cool. Dice. Yep. There's no electronic. Well, I mean, I guess if you really want to split hairs, and still it is an electronic dice, but you're not, I mean, it's still, you're rolling it, so kind of neat. So we got that. Protractor. This is kind of where this all started, because somebody put this out and said we need more war games, put it on Twitter, that is, that use protractors, which is when a lot of people start saying that's enough, these things are getting too absurd, protractors too much, it's really not that big of a deal. So this one, you use protractors, and let's see, if there isn't one in here, I can get you one. I thought there used to be one in here, but anyway, there's ways for that. It's not that big of a deal. It's not, like it says, it'll be very helpful in determining movement and firing angles. Clear plastic protractors are the best. It's just a steering wheel, But people see one and go, "Oh, I remember that from that horrible math class," and they start to shut down, and it's just a means of drawing at that point. It's really not that big of a deal. And you need a wind direction and force indicator. Well, I had one, but it's kind of geared to a different game. It didn't really fit. So I grabbed this weather vane model from somewhere and just used this. They've got a whole system of dice to do it if you don't have a weather vane, but I just happen to have that and it looked cool, so I just used that. So ship models, we've already shown you that. They're a little hard to see unless you're zoomed in because of the size. Like I say, where'd mine go? See, it's hard to see. But Oh boy. We might be able to do something about that if too many people complain about the size. But there's ways, once you learn how to maneuver, there's ways once you see it without it being a big problem. But those are the models that I selected for this one. And the reason I selected them, even though they're quite small, is again twofold. They seemed to be, they seem a little bit smaller now I think about it. Now that I've got a ruler, I could pull it out and change that. They're very small, granted, but they seem like the kind of tiny little ship models that were used back in the day. And the smaller the model, the more room you have for maneuver. And as I said earlier, I prefer to have way too much than way too little. What else? Moonrad. So it gives a real basic turn sequence. You start by, writing out your orders, and that's the captain yelling to the helmsman, steady as she goes, whatever, all the old Hollywood jargon. The length of move is basically translates to how fast you want to go. The longer the move, the faster you're going. The turns are 5 minutes apiece. Any firing orders are included. It's not super detailed ballistics. You aim high or you aim low. Aiming low is going for the hull. Aiming high is going for the masts. You go for the masts to slow the ship down. So you might board it or have a better shot at it. And you aim low to blow holes in the hull so that you can sink it. Movement is simultaneous, and its end firing and damage are determined. And at its end, firing and damage are determined. So you move, then shoot. And then after the shooting, well, anyway, some people do all the firing, then do all the damage. Some people do fire and then resolve the damage from that fire, then move to the next fire and resolve the damage. So it's a matter of choice there. Anyway, and then if it comes to that, there's boarding operations. If you want to seize the ship or something like that. And that's it. It's real simple. And there are 3 stages of the game. I talked about that the other night or last night with somebody, that a lot of these games, people go, oh, they were so complicated and you had to read so much. They were also divided into basic, intermediate, and advanced. So you started with a little bit. And then once you felt comfortable with that, you could move on to a little bit more. And then a little bit more after that. And this was, just an easy way. I liken it to wading into the pool instead of diving into the pool. 1 inch equals 100 yards. So you get an idea of how far you can shoot. And if it matters to you, how long that is in real world terms of yards. So the cannon weight has its own issues, and there's a reason for that as well. Yes, the only drawback with the old tabletop here is it's sometimes hard to get that out of the way of your reading. So yeah, there's range bands is basically what it's saying. Explain later, firing is done A, B, and C ranges. There's 4 range bands. And we'll get into that when we get into the gun ring. And then the ships. And this is the great thing. Instead of, it's great because it's easier. Instead of getting into specific classes of ships and listing them individually, They classify them in tonnage groups, and it leaves you open to bringing in almost anything you want without, or having to buy a bunch of supplemental books, or have a book that's very big in the back that has a list of all this stuff. So, um, was there a difference between a Spanish and a British frigate? I think so. I think so. And um, to keep costs, I'm assuming to keep costs low and to make things easier, they let you. This is what we used to do. This is the way it was in the 70s. Well, what's the difference? What if I want to field one of those? How do I know how many? I want to do this battle, and they say these ships were in there, but it doesn't specify how do these. Well, they fit under classification of tons, and you can go look it up and see how many guns there are and fill it out. You'll see. So these classes make it easier and allow you to bring anything you want. And it's miniatures agnostic as well. They just say, here, you don't go buy these miniatures, or here's the miniatures that come with our thing that lock you into buying more of our product. They just say, find some miniatures that are of this scale approximately. So, and they give a more detailed explanation. So if you page through some book at the library or read some account on the internet, but it didn't get specific, and you're like, well, I really want to war game this out, and he had these ships, but I don't know much about it and all. Just match them up with these descriptions if you have, access to that. And explains that, you kind of get into basic seamanship a little bit in that, less sails, less speed, that kind of thing. It tends, and your crew knows it, and they know the consequences from not being able to run from an enemy, especially one that outguns you or something like that. So it can affect their morale when they start seeing their means of locomotion being blown up from over their heads. There are ways to do the jury rigging, as it says there, and things like that. So you get a little bit of drama, and you can get into, hey, is my crew good enough, or do I have enough of my crew left to be able to, make temporary repairs? And so it's not too complicated, but it's got enough things going on in there to make a very dramatic, action-packed, and interesting game. And with a lot of these things, too, I just want to jump in. This is just general commentary, but it comes up in my head. You hear people go, yeah, but they went on forever because you got to check this, and then you got to roll for that. And here's the thing. One, I know what they're saying. Sometimes there are several procedures to get a result in some of these games. Fair enough. But the other thing is, so what? Make something out of that. Make it interesting. Instead of sanitizing it just to numbers, have people out there, use your imagination. What's being simulated? Don't look at, like I do this with role playing and like fantasy role playing. What breaks immersion and makes it seem like a tedious thing to do combat is the spellcaster fired his magic missile and hit the Minotaur for 3 points of damage. Ragnar the Unlucky has just been hit over the head with the giant's club. He's lost 20 points of damage, and it's like, yawn. Instead of your wizard raises up his hands and conjures from the ethos a spew of missiles that go hurtling into the chest of the Minotaur, or something like that. So make a little narrative out of what you're reading in the somewhat clinical sounding procedures, and it makes it fun and immersive for everybody. That's another thing we do here at the service with Command Post Gaming. We're not going to just be somebody that crunches numbers for you. You're not going to get those kind of reports back. You tell your people to go somewhere, you're going to get a report from your people. You told Sergeant, just as an example, you told Sergeant Wilkinson to take third squad, go find Jerry on the left flank down that, he's going to come back and say, here's what we saw. It's not going to be, well, I rolled my my search score and I got 5 under, so I passed search check and all that crap. No, Wilkinson's going to come back and say, "Sir, we recon the area. We found 5 krauts dug in on the left side of the Nully, the Nully Cliff or whatever." So it'll be much more dramatic and immersive in that way, and it kind of glosses over because I don't think it's a lot of times it's not the fact that these are difficult things or concepts or the math is difficult or anything like that. It's that the action's gone while you do the math, or the procedure. Anyway, so wind and direction and forces, going back to the game. This is just basic sailing, basic seamanship, and it makes the game more dramatic. Yes, it's kind of a realism thing. It's a kind of a simulation thing, sort of, but the whole idea of, warfare at this level on the sea was all about being able to have your crew run that ship efficiently and deal with changes in wind speed and direction and how that affects the way that you can turn and make maneuvers, because you've got to get your guns to bear on the target, and of course the target's trying to evade and all that. So you have wind direction. They have some effect on the way that you can navigate your ship, and that's fun. So and it can change. Now that's not going to happen in the training game because we want to keep things chill, and we want to be able to just learn the basics first. Excuse me a moment. Anyway, sorry, I don't look. So sometimes some people just anyway. So here again, you have how the wind affects your class of ship, and that's just basically based on the size and the amount of sorry about that. So again, just to start over, where was I at? It's a little the wind and the size of the ship gives you how far you can move based on how the wind works. and direction plays into it as well. Oops. Such as this, it shows how, I don't know if how clear this is to you, but the arrow with the fletching is the direction of the wind. The little 4 arrow in the center represents the direction of the boat. So if you're going, which should be obvious, if you're walking, or excuse me, sailing into the wind, you're not going to go as fast. If you're sailing with the wind, you're going to go a lot faster. If you're going perpendicular to the wind, it's not going to have as much effect on your speed. So your speed will be normal. There is drift. So if you decide to stop, you're in deep water, and the anchor won't keep you completely. You'll drift a little bit. So so it explains how the maneuvers work, and what relation to the wind and direction it has. Not very complicated. And some of that is left for the optional rules later on. So, but just kind of going through things here. So, and it explains how you figure out firepower. And here's why you don't have some set value, because cannon fire on you can eliminate your guns. Your crews can be killed, or the guns can be knocked out of action. And so to represent that, you just do a very basic mathematical. I know some people in the mathematics really, but that way you can show that the firepower is in decline because of the loss of guns, just with a simple division that people learn when they're quite young. So, and there is a mathematical thing for the crew factor, and that's to represent manpower. You can lose manpower, again, through attrition, and that can affect how well the boat can conduct itself at sea. If you don't have enough people to run masts the right way, or something like that, it can affect you. So that's all just lumped in. It's, instead of getting into super detail, it's just all lumped into crew loss. And yes, the math there looks tedious, but it's really not. And calculators have been a thing. I don't want to sound too flippant about it, but I really never understood the obsession with walking around the long side of the barn just to avoid, like doing multiplication or something. Because there's a lot of people that have, really bent their noodles into a pretzel just to figure out how to not have to do that. And it's not like you're doing it every minute of this game, but yes, I suppose this is why people say these are antiquated games or whatever. So and the rest of it's just more description on how these loss of mass and damage can affect how the ship works. It has some rules for sinking. Again, pretty simple stuff. It gets very exciting and tense if you have a situation where you're bailing water, you're trying to save the ship, or all those sort of things. it can be an interesting narrative plot point. It can be exciting. Again, trying to save the ship. Don't lose the ship. Um, it also has uh, so anyway. Um, I don't know if there's anybody out there at this point, and this thing keeps getting interrupted, so I've kind of lost my place. Fuck. Anybody there? God damn it. We'll get into the rest later.